Taking a closer look at science and faith helps us learn more about God. The messages that we get about science and faith can be confusing and they can be contradictory. It can feel like if you believe in one, you can't believe in the other. Science and faith don't have to be separate, and we can learn a lot by taking a closer look at both. When we look at science as something that can grow our faith, we can learn more about who God is and the way that God works in a really cool way. Some people think that science and faith should be always separate because they think that learning about science may lead us to believe that there is no God. Scientific facts change, but God's truth never does. If you believe in God, you have to give up on science, which is not true. Questions about science and faith can be complicated. It can be hard to get to know what's true. But God gave us the ability to think for ourselves. So we were made to learn and explore these questions. There is a room for science and faith to work together. And the more we learn about both, the more we realize how compatible they are. The Bible is one place that we can learn more about God and creation. The first verse in the Bible doesn't tell us how God created every detail of creation, but it does tell us that God was there. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. While faith asks questions of who or why, science seems to be asking the questions of how. Not everyone considers asking about both the why and the how when it comes to science and faith. A man named Charles Darwin was a scientist who was interested in answering the question of how creation came to be. His idea was that animals changed or evolved over time to better fit in their environments. His theory has caused a lot of controversy because it suggested that humans came into existence by accident and that they weren't created by God on purpose or for a purpose. Darwin spent a lot of time trying to understand how things were created, but he didn't consider much about the who or the why behind creation. He didn't consider the Creator. Christians believe that God created the entire world and everything in it. So none of creation was on accident. It was all designed and chosen by Him. Human beings were created to reflect His image. That's the who and what of creation. Then God said, "Let us make human beings in our own image, to be like us. They will reign over the fish of the sea and the birds of the sky, the livestock and all the wild animals on the earth, and the small animals that scurry along the ground." So God created human beings in His own image. In the image of God, He created them. Male and female, He created them. Humans didn't just show up by chance or on accident. We were made by God as good. Then God looked over all that He had made and He saw that it was very good. Studying how things were made is a great question and gives us incredible understanding about the way that things work. But if we want to see how science and faith work together, we have to ask why. Science and faith can work together to show us more about God. You were made to know and love God, to reflect His image to the world, to experience God's best for your life. Together, science and faith show us a bigger picture about God's creation. So, when we're faced with the questions about science and faith, we can ask these questions. The first one is how. Ask how science helps us understand what God says to be true. The second one is why. As we discover more about God's creation, ask why these things were made and how they work in God's bigger picture and plans and purpose for us. The third one is both, how and why. Consider how science and faith work together to help us grow in our relationship with God. Science and faith can work together to show us more about God and who He is. When we discover more about both, the why and the how, we can discover more about who God is.